So it's been tough. And that goes without any hesitation. It's just the way it is. But this is the business that we're in. We all understand this. I've been in a long time. And you understand that things like this come up. It's a bad part of the business. And when I look at it, it's not just coaches, but there's families involved, there's kids involved, things like that. So it's a tough situation for everybody. But that being said, I think, I've got a job to do now. And I'm excited for that opportunity. It's an honor and privilege to be standing here in front of you guys today and leading this organization. We've got a lot of hard work ahead of us. But the one thing, I've talked to the staff already. I'm going to talk to the team tomorrow about, togetherness. We got to stick together. That's the only way to do it, is stick together. We all have a part in this, where we are today. It's not just Brian. And that's the unfortunate thing in this business that happens, and we all have a hand in it. Every player, every coach, every person in the organization, we have to hold each other accountable. So we all have to be accountable for everything we're doing on a daily basis. So that's two things, the togetherness part of it and the accountability moving forward. Those are two big things that I'm going to stress to everybody, because it's a bad feeling when you see someone that's such a good person like Brian have this happen to. But we all have to understand, hey, we're all in this together, and we all have a hand in it, okay? And with that being said, I want to kind of lean into one other thing with regards to our fan base. I understand the frustration. Our record's what it is, but I can promise you, okay, we're going to work our tails off, every day we walk in this facility as a coaching staff, as players, to go out there and do whatever we can, okay, to give us our best opportunity to win a football game. That's what it's all about. It's about winning. Okay, so we got to go out there and play with great energy, great effort, play with the swagger, complementary football. All three phases playing together. That's the big thing. We all understand where we are and that we've struggled on offense. We got to fix that. And that's the number one thing we got to do right now moving forward is we got to fix it and clean up some things on offense. And but it's complementary football, and that's sticking together as a football team. But when you play complementary football and you help each other out, good things are going to happen. So to the fans, hey, we're going to go out there, we're going to fight our tails off and get rolling.
Why do you think the offense has had such troubles, and what's the first step in trying to change it?
Well, there's a number of different things. It's every game, it's been something different. You look at that, and that's like you put a game plan together, and the things that work, things that don't work, we got to execute better. That's everybody. That's all 11 guys on offense of going out there and doing their jobs better. It's not any one person. It's everybody's in it together. If we all just eliminate a couple mistakes here and there in a game at different times, and we all play better, we'll have better results.
Michael, you said yesterday that you might want to implement some changes, work with Cam a little bit for some change. Can you maybe give us a kind of a broad idea of what you might like to see there?
Well, I think, we've got I'm a big believer as we go moving forward. You always got to think players and not plays. And I think we guys you look at this, and we got to decide, okay, moving forward, and it's early in the week still. So each week you look at what a defensive scheme, what they're going to run, what do our players do best. So, we got to sit down and like we've done the last, couple hours this morning, getting into the game planning against a good New England team, is what does Cam do best? And what do we do best as an offense? And that's going to be every week. So that's the big thing when we go in there. We got to look at our scheme. What are we doing? And it's going to change from week to week on what we do best.
What allows quarterbacks to grow? What allows quarterbacks to grow, in your opinion? And just what are you planning on doing maybe differently or additionally?
Experience. There's nothing like experience. And I've been doing this a long time. And when you get into a new system, whether you're a veteran or you're a rookie, especially a rookie at any position, it takes time to get used to the game. And I know you've had a ton of success in college, regardless of what position you're playing. Then you get to the NFL, and everybody's good. And the talent level, any Sunday, you go out there and win any football game on Sunday. You see how the league's already happened, what's going on, through 6 weeks so far. People call them upsets, this and that, but it's if you don't play your best, you're going to get beat. or if you go out there and play your best game, you're putting yourself in a position. And then it comes down to, situational football. Are you executing at the critical times of the game? Are you making that kick at the end of the game to win it? All those little things. So there's so many different things that go into it, but there's a developmental phase, and there's a growth of players, we're always going to look at, regardless of what our record is, we're trying to play better the next week. That's the number one focus. Regardless of what your record is, you're trying to improve. Even in games late, I was very fortunate to work with Dan Henning. And, I was kind of raised by Dan Henning and Richard Williamson and Callahan days a long, long time ago when I wasn't gray, and they always talked about with the team that, listen, you're always playing for the next week or the next series, regardless of what the score is. If you're ahead, okay, now you're getting in a 4-minute situation. You're doing certain things to always get better, regardless what the situation is. So we're going to look for, how do we get better every week? That's critical.
How do you keep a coaching staff that's now kind of in limbo at the end of the season and players who may not know what their role is beyond this year? How do you keep them dialed in and focused and bought in?
That's easy. This is the NFL. We all have a job to do. We got the greatest job. I mean, I absolutely love coming to work every day. I think the character of our football team, the type of players we have, getting to know, seeing what Jeff does every day. There's a reason why he goes out and dominates every game. The way you see him at the end of games on the sideline with the offense as they're coming off, regardless of what the score is. The players that we have, and that's just one guy that I'm mentioning. There's a lot of guys, the veteran players we have here, they know what it means to play this game every day, so you can't take anything for granted. Every game's a gem. You go out there and you never know in this business when it's going to be your last snap. You don't know that. There's injuries that happen, there's things that come up, so that's, we have the wrong people in this building if they don't approach every day, with the right way.
Once the decision was made, how did you go about communicating with the rest of the staff, and what is the status of the remaining coaches?
Well, there's, as you all know, we have parted ways with Bill Callahan, and I'll leave it at that, but the rest of the staff is staying the same. And so, in the afternoon, after they talked to me about this opportunity that I'm honored to have, I got the guys together, we had a quick little meeting, and I've met with guys, last night obviously, and today, kind of about what direction we're heading and the changes we're going to make and how we're going to do things moving forward.
So is Bill Hardaway still calling the plays, or?
Yes, yes.
Is Scott the offensive line coach?
I've got two great offensive line coaches that are going to work together. The great thing about the two of them is that, they've learned from one of the best to ever do it. Bill was a phenomenal football coach, a better person. My office is right next to the offensive line room, so I heard all those meetings and everything all the time when I was in my office, and I've got all the confidence in the world in those two guys of leading that room together. I'm big into everyone doing this thing together with Luke and Randy, more in the run game with those guys. And we all did it together in the past, but just, I want everyone to kind of be in it together. That's the one big thing.
What was it like when they approached you about this? Sorry. What was it like when they approached you about this? And did you ever think that this could have been a possibility when you took this job?
I never thought of this when I took the job. Back when I first talked to Brian, last off season, this was the last thing I thought I'd be doing.
How much like, I guess you, go ahead.
Sorry, just to follow up, what was it like yesterday when they approached you about this, and kind of give us an idea of how that went down?
Well, unfortunately, when you hear the news, like I talked about, how it's been a hard 24 hours, up until I'm talking to you guys right now, there's always that first initial reaction. And listen, I've been there before. I've been doing this a long time. I've seen a lot in the business, so I feel for Brian, but I also know once I talk to Mike and Chad, the opportunity I had, that I've got a job to do now.
How much,
And so, we had a great conversation. I've had a great conversation with the two of them once they kind of talked to me about certain things, and I'm excited for the opportunity.
How much, Mike, I guess your past experience as a head coach helped you step into this job and and kind of knowing how to handle things and maybe lessons you learned then?
It's invaluable because nobody knows until you're in this role. You think you're ready, you got no clue. There's so many things that come up on a daily basis that you have to deal with. And, I was young back in 2013 when I first got the job in San Diego, and the things that come across my desk, I've got to answer this? What are you talking about? I mean, isn't that his job to do that? And you're the head coach. So there's just so many things, whether it's the practice schedules, it's game days, it's the off season, it's travel. There's so many things you have to do. And then with the roster, players, families, game day, there's so many things that come up, but that's, my 4 years working with a great organization and the way we work together and the way the Spanos family treated me, Tom Telesco and stuff, I've learned so much from them, and it's going to really help me in my situation now.
What about your time in Jacksonville and working with, I said, what about your time in Jacksonville and working with Trevor Lawrence? How do you think that might apply to working with Cam here and how that might help?
Well, I think if you go back to our first season in Jacksonville in 22, we didn't necessarily light it up early in the season. Trevor, he was learning the system, and there's certain things, you put a new play in possibly, and all of a sudden you put it in for a game plan, and then it's a completely different look, and he may not play as fast, and then all of a sudden we get back from London, whatever week that was in the season, and we go on a run, and the rest is history with what we did by winning the first playoff game and then obviously losing the divisional round. But it takes time. But you're looking. That's what I kept on telling Trevor. I'm gonna tell Cam. I talked to Cam yesterday. It's gonna be the same thing. It's every week you're getting better. And you asked earlier about, you just got to learn as time goes. You're gonna at one point, at some time during the year, it's gonna slow down for him. But right now, it's going really fast.
Cam's footwork, Cam's tendency to drift, this proclivity to throw while it's falling backwards, how much of that can you fix week to week and drill that he doesn't fall back into habits?
Well, I think that's one thing we have to clean up. And there'll be certain things, and we talked last night a little bit, a couple things, and then on a weekly basis, we're going to be brutally honest with the players. Like I told you, we're going to hold them all accountable. So there's certain things that you're always going to, in individual period, you're going to clean up all those things. And there's going to be certain things that are going to change from position. I know you're asking about Cam, but that's with the entire football team. When something comes up and you see kind of what happened the other day in the game where there was some drifting and then the ball security in the pocket, things like that, we got to clean up. And that's our job as coaches, and that's the challenge every week, what you're doing with players, and that's what we love to do.
You've had a lot of success with different quarterbacks, from Trevor back to Jake Delhomme.
There's two other good ones in between, too.
Exactly. Is there a common thread, because they're very different, is there a common thread of what makes a quarterback at this level good, and what do you stress to Cam about getting him to that place?
Well, if you go back to, I've had a lot of great ones. From the first day when I was 28 years old and young, I had Steve Berline. And then we went from there, and then I ended up having Jake Delhomme. We went to Super Bowl with Jake Delhomme, and because of that, I ended up going to Denver, and I worked with Tim Tebow. We went on that run back in the days with Tim, and then Peyton Manning, not a bad guy, Phillip Rivers. So I've coached some of the best in the business, and I think they all have and there's many other guys, some backups and other roles that they had, and guys that, Trevor Siemian, it's great to work with him in Denver. He had a lot of success there. Unfortunately, we didn't win enough in 17, but I've had a great group, and I think they all have a burning desire to be great, and they're all different. And I think all those guys were also, not only did they have a burning desire to win, but they were great leaders in their own way. There's a number of different ways to lead, and number one, it's going out there, and moving the ball up and down the field and having success in the field. And then you get to a point, a lot of those guys, they don't say much, but when their tone of their voice changes, that, hey, we better pick it up.
You talked about your relationship with Brian. As he reached out and told you, hey, good luck with this. I know it's in a kind of an awkward situation, but you heard from him?
I talked to Brian yesterday, well, he was still here, I went and talked to him. We're close, and I can't thank him enough for the opportunity he gave me to be here. So, we had a great conversation.
How well do you
It wasn't
think,
easy, but it was a good conversation.
how well do you think Cam has handled the constant fine-tuning of the integration of him as a player with what you guys are trying to accomplish schematically, and how do you guys think you've handled as a coaching staff trying to figure out what he does best?
Well, that's going to be our number one focus is, how do we get Cam to be more efficient, and have more success? But it's not just him. There's 10 other guys in the field with him that have got to do their jobs better too. So we all have to do our jobs better, coaching, playing, everybody. But I think there's the good and the bad. And as a young player, as a rookie, there's going to be some bumps in the road. It's going to happen. I mean, it doesn't matter what position you're going to play in this league, especially quarterback's the hardest position to play. So, there's some really good things, and then there's some things that you want to say, what are we doing? But the number one focus has got to be, okay, how do we minimize the mistakes and get more of the good? More production, but that's all 11 on offense working together and being more efficient.
Will you pretty much leave the defense and special teams alone, or will you be involved in those matters now that you're the interim head coach?
Well, as a head coach, you are involved in everything, but I've got all the confidence in the world in our coaching staff that they're going to do a great job. And, we had a great meeting last night when the dust settled on everything. We had some time to kind of sit down as a group, and we met and briefly talked about what we're going to do moving forward, and then we had some more conversations this morning with everybody at different times. I'm going to go and talk to everybody. So it's been good.
Earlier this year, you had one of your opponents, they said that you guys looked flat pregame, and then Sunday, Jeffrey Simmons said, hey, we had a worse week of practice and we were flat on Thursday. What can you do about that? And, what are your thoughts on those comments?
Well, your opponents can say what they want to say. I don't agree with it, to be honest with you. I think if you look at how we've practiced, our players work their tails off. They work extremely hard every day. Okay, in the situation last week where the first couple plays of the period, not what we want to know. But I love the fact that at practice, somebody stood up and said, start it over. This is not good enough. We got to fix this. This is not acceptable. And there's a certain standard you have to have. And that's, like I mentioned Jeff earlier, I love that. That he, it's like I talked about, that's the accountability factor. If he wants to win so bad, he's a great example to look at from any player on this football team and say, if we all work as hard on a daily basis and go out there and play the way he is playing on Sundays, great things are going to happen for this organization. So I understand the frustration, but so.
Last night, Chad and Mike sat up there and just talked about, we got 11 games left and they want to see growth and improvement. So I guess our question to you is why do you believe that you were the right person to yield those results leading this team?
Well, I think my track record speaks for itself. When I say that, the experience I've had since 2000 in every role, and work with a number of different players, different positions, and you see the success the players have had, and it's like any other, if you go back to any season, there's the ups and the downs of any season. And when you look at where we're heading, that's what, like I talked about earlier, we're going to look to get better every week. How do we grow as a football team? How do we get better every week? How do we play complementary football week in and week out? And listen, it's tough to win in this business. You got to go out there and play your best, and there's certain weeks where certain phases of the three phases you have, someone's got to carry it. There might have to be a big return in the kicking game, a block kick, whatever it is, a 2-minute stop, or a 2-minute score, or a field goal to win it, a 4-minute situation. There's so many things that come into it, but I think with all the experience I have and what I've done is I can help everybody, through the situational things moving forward and do all those things.
Mike, to Build off of that, it's been almost a decade since you've been in this position with the franchise. I know you focus on a game plan and a game this week, but did you think you'd have an opportunity like this again, and how much do you embrace the opportunity to prove the type of head coach you are in this league?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, when I first came here, I never thought that this was going to happen here. Would it be a goal of mine to say one day again I'd be a head coach? Sure, that's what everyone wants. I'm a leader. I love to lead. I love to work with the players, work with the coaches, work with the entire organization. We got great people here in the organization. I mean, there's so many good people. I'm not talking the coaching staff and the players. I'm talking the entire organization as a whole. Just how like I said, I love coming to work every day. It doesn't matter who it's with, what department it's with. We got great people here, and that's what I love, being a part of that and being able to lead everybody. And it's an honor and it's a privilege to be standing here in front of you guys today saying that I'm going to lead this organization.
Last one, John. Speaking of your time around Mike, I know there was about 3 or 4 years where you were out of coaching there for a while. I wonder what kind of perspective that you might have gained during that, time off, and was there ever a time where you weren't sure whether you'd be getting back into coaching at all?
Well, I mentioned to you earlier about how families are involved. And in this profession, we spend a lot of time away from our families. And so that gave me an opportunity to spend time with my daughter, Liv, and my son, Luke, my wife. So I loved it because, and you can see why I got emotional, is because from 2000 to 2018, I wasn't around a lot. And so it gave me an opportunity. My daughter was in the University of Arizona, so I got to spend a lot of time. The Parents' Weekend. I got the greatest wife in the world. And so, I loved it. I hate saying it. And I missed the game. I really did miss the game. And I talked a couple times to people about joining it, joining their staffs. And for one reason, it didn't work out. But I wouldn't trade it for anything because I got to spend a couple years with 3 of it's what I live for. So.